evening, and for those that were expecting a live broadcast tonight, unfortunately we had a technical challenge and the microphone wasn't working when it came to start the race, so instead we're going to have a little bit of a voiceover commentary because this was a pretty good race, I think, for everybody all round. We've had a lot of accidents in the first few races of the season, and there's a big request from the league coordinator prior to the start of this race that everybody just tries to control themselves, contain themselves on the first few laps. So I'll try and get through in one piece and make it a real race. And I think, as you'll see as it unfolds, that's what happened. So this is just commencing the warm-up lap for the race itself. Qualifying in pole position was Wilson, followed closely by McCarthy and Barr. Nins, sneaky devil there he is, he qualified in P6. Claiming, as usual, he was really struggling and he wasn't getting much time for practicing. I managed a pretty credible P11 with a 126 and a bit, I think, or a 125. Pretty close to my PB for this course. And usually when the pressure's on for the race quality, I struggle a little bit. We've got 23 drivers online tonight. We had a couple of drivers drop out this week, saying they were feeling there was too many incidents in the race. One driver in particular saying that they felt they were to blame, but we're trying to appeal to them to keep going, because you're not going to get any better if you don't keep partaking. But it looks like they've decided not to turn up for tonight. My position on the overall league table is down to P9 going into this race, so a decent result might help either secure that 9th position or move us up the table a little bit. And this is the last race before we go into a break for a week. Next week, they've announced today, there's going to be a special race, a joker race, where you're awarded a random car with 1 hour prior to the race commencing, and they'll choose a random track. So very little time for practice, very little time to get the setup right. But that'll be on next week. Details will be added to YouTube soon. We're just finishing the end of the warm-up lap now, and as you can see, there's a lot of ghosting goes on with the cars, which is part of the game, to make sure that we don't mash our cars to bits. And we're just coming around the final corner now. We'll just switch to the leaders. This is Wilson that we're looking at. Now Wilson's in the Ferrari, the rather colourful Ferrari. I'm not sure where he's got that colour scheme from, possibly from Morphy. McCarthy is in this Lamborghini. And then Barr is also in a Ferrari, so they're away. It looks like Wilson's going to get into Druids first. And Barr's followed him through, so McCarthy drops back one place straight away. Dropping back down the field to myself. Nice clear run for me up to the inside of Druids. And looks like Domi on the outside of me, I think. Dropped a little bit behind, and I took up behind Nins. So we're team are 1 and 2 behind each other straight from the off. I do know I ended up with Marquis behind me. Oh, it looks like he went a bit wide there on that corner. And it's Domi 64 who's closing up behind me now. Marquis drops back a little bit. Up at the front, Wilson's got a nice solid lead, it looks, with over half a second back to Barr, just still in contact. And then McCarthy, again, pretty close behind, keeping it tight. Up front, I'm up into P8th. Up front, further behind, I'm into P8th. Still behind Nins, who I recall started to open up a little bit of a gap on me. Where Domi's right behind me, keeping it tight. Nins still just in front of me, just went ahead of me around that corner. You see Crawford as well is just behind Domi, just perhaps waiting for an opening to try and get through. There's 1 lap completed already. We're a little bit wide there, but got away with it. So it's still pretty tight all down the field, and there's not many signs of any big accidents. But Domi gets a good run on me here. He's coming around the outside. And we're side by side. Very side by side. But we keep it clean. Domi sweeps it around the outside. Gets the place. I think by this time I'll put off and Crawford sees an opportunity and he comes through as well. So I slip that down to P10. I've got Kinder closing in behind me as well. He's got an eye on opportunity to get through. Keeping it close on Crawford, seeing him as an opportunity to get back. Up front, Wilson's still in the lead, but Barr is just 0.1 second behind him. Really close at the front, all the way down to about P7, very, very close. You can just see Nins at the back there. Sorg is now in third place, McCarthy's dropped back 1 to 4th. Sorg's just joined our league, I think he's come down from tier 6. Not sure if he felt we'd be better company down in tier 7. But he's clearly on the threshold between the two if he's already up to P3 in this race. Looks like a little gap there forming behind Sorg to McCarthy. It looks like it's 0.7 of a second. How's Nins doing? Still keeping it close, right behind Eugene, who we'll see more of later. Quick look at our league coordinator, Murphy. Unfortunately, I have to inflict this paint job upon you. It's been the subject of much discussion this week. So it was even a tribute band that rolled out on Sunday for Murphy, but he was watching the derby instead, so he missed out completely on the efforts to honour his interesting choice of colours. So Murphy's close on Kinder, who at one point was closing in on me, so Marquis has got through. And here we can see Marquis right behind me. Pushing hard, so we were pretty close. And it was close racing like this all the way through this race. So I'm in P10, Marquis beats behind me is in P11, then you've got a very tiny gap to Kinder, then Murphy's right behind Kinder. Looks like Marquis going to have a little bit of a sniff, have a little look at the inside, but he's still too far back really to get through. He's having another nosy. Again, I don't think he's just not alongside. He will be optimistic to have tried to throw it up the inside of there, because I wasn't even alongside my rear wheels, I think. Oh, looks like he had a little slide there, Marquis, and put some wheels on the grass, gave me a little bit of a gap. We're with Marquis now, trying to close up on us. See how close it is, even down to Martin in P14 in the Bentley. Martin's a surprise that far back. I don't think didn't seem to have a very good qualifying from what I saw. I think he started quite a long way down the field. Marquis still pressing me, still trying to get through. Still an incredibly tight race, even all the way down to P14. So hopefully Murphy was happy about this compared to previous weeks. I think it was really tight racing this week, all the way down the field. And I don't, from my perspective, I don't recall any incidents as we were going through. Car off to the side then. Unfortunately, no chance to see who he was. Still nose to tail. Gap now between Marquis and myself is just 0.3 of a second. And onto the Paddock Hill bend, coming up towards Druids. And this division so evenly matched that unless one of us makes a mistake, we're not really making an impression on each other. Now just 5 laps in, and it's been nose to tail all the way so far. And up front, Sorg's got into second place now. Behind Barr. Oh, and we join him just as he's having a bit of a moment, and Sorg drops down the field. Nins goes past him. Sorg's back pushing hard, trying to get that space, that place back. I think Nins has got that covered on the inside line for that corner. It's down to Paddock Hill bend. There's sometimes an overtaking opportunity on Druids because it's a hairpin, but during my race, I don't think all I ever got was a car alongside me going into Druids and never got overtaken. So it looks like Sorg is now slipped back to 6th. Nins is up to 5th. Nins had a bit of a moment there on the grass. That might be an opportunity for Sorg. But Nins has got the inside line coming up to the next corner, which is usually the advantage that you need. But now Sorg's through, takes the position back. Nins will have to keep the pressure on, see if he can get another mistake. Back to me, and Marquis is still closing up on me. Gap seems smaller than ever, but it's still, according to the computer, about the same at 0.3 of a second. Still myself, Marquis, Kinder, and then just dropping back a little bit, Morphy. A little bit of a gap now from Kinder to Morphy. Surprisingly, Martin still in 12th, very unusual. And Paul Wilson, who was leading us, is all the way down in P16 now, so something must have happened to Wilson. And just behind him, although the computer showed him, no, just behind him is Dommy, 64 again. He was right with us at one point, so he must have had a bit of an off somewhere and slipped down the field. Marquis, just as we cut back, is right alongside me. I think there's a few drivers tried an adventurous up the inside going into that corner, and it doesn't really work. You can get a slightly faster line on the outside, able to carry slightly better speed all the way down the straight. And now we're at 7 laps. I think it's about like 4 or 5 laps we were this close up to now. I think it carries on for a little while longer as well. Oh, and Marquis lost it. Lost the rear end on the curbs, and unfortunately collects a couple of other cars in the same incident. I'm not sure, obviously down to the drivers if they want to put anything into the stewards, but I think that was just a bit of bad luck for Marquis. I think he just caught the curb, lost the rear end, and there wasn't a lot he could do. We're all pushing really hard. And though it's cost everybody too much time, Martin came through, so I'm a few seconds up the road. So it's cost them 1 or 2 places, but the gaps, as you can see on the screen, are not too big still. It's still pretty close racing. Looks like Marquis might have made his tyres a bit hot, went a bit wide there. That let Kinder back through. So Marquis ends up down in P12. Up front, myself, now with a little bit of space around me, it's 1 second back to Martin, but I know Martin's really quick and he's closing in fast. And he's driving a Bentley. I'm not sure if that counts for anything. Perhaps he thinks, you know, he's a Bentley driver in private life, but he's coming on. He doesn't have his teammate this week. We made a bit of a plea on the forums for some more teams for the championship, because the only team was myself and Nins. So we asked for people to try and make contact with each other, and it worked too well, because Martin's teamed up with the other Bentley driver, Dush, and they're both like 3rd and 4th, I think, on the championship table. So they've gone straight past me and Nins, so that really didn't work out well. Perhaps I was hoping for some of the lower placed drivers, but you see Martin make a really clean overtake there. I made a mistake in the previous corner. He had much better speed all the way down the main straight and just easily put his car up the inside with nothing much I could do about it. No point trying to fight that too much. So the idea was now if I could keep on his tail and maybe try and put some pressure on him. But if I recall correctly, Martin just pulls away steadily. So Martin will be into P7 and I drop down to P8. The next driver to be closing up on me is Murphy. Up front, Barr is still in front, Winspur's right behind him. With McCarthy just a little bit further down the road. Being hotly pursued by Eugene, which is interesting. So Eugene was at 4th at this point. More of that later. Nins looks to be on his own a little bit, I think. Crawford's just under half a second behind him. It looks like Eugene is just a little bit up the road. Possibly 6 seconds up the road, so big space in front of Nins. Locking on Murphy now, whose next objective is to try and catch me up. If I recall correctly, it was around this point in the race I started to make a few mistakes. It was getting incredibly hot. I'm not sure my tyres were getting hot as well, and it was starting to lose a little bit of grip. Now 10 laps in already. Sorg is down to 10th, so he was all the way up to 2nd place at one point, so it's clearly Branbds Hatch can be a very tricky track, and only when it takes a tiny mistake and you're on the grass a little bit and you're dropping down. So he's in 10th place now, trying to close up on Murphy, move up the field. Other drivers of note are Domi, who's in P13. Just closing in on Kravchenok. And right behind Domi there's Wilson. Wilson's usually quite handy as well. We'll not give the usual cry. Wilson! Oh, we didn't hear that. And Steve Allen. Steve switched to the Porsche of late. Steve, I've noticed, has a bad habit of starting every season in a car and then 3 or 4 races, changing cars and losing all his points back to square one. He claims he's very happy with the Porsche. I drove the Porsche last season, and it's okay. You really have to stay away from the curbs. If you go near the curbs, it'll kill you. And I think there's quite a few curbs here at Branbds Hatch, and it's usually better off to take the curbs. But in the Porsche, that's not something you can really do. So I hope he's having an okay time, managing to keep out of trouble. Steve's up to P15 at the moment. Back up to the front, and Barr is still leading. I thought he'd gone then. Just scrolled off top of the screen. So Barr's still just in front. Got a 1 second lead now on Winspur, so it's created a tiny little gap. Which will probably allow him to breathe a little bit easier. gap now between Crawford and Nins has opened up a little bit. It looks like it's a second. And Nins' gap to Eugene is 4 seconds. So it looks like, oh, there's a car off there. Was that Eugene? It looked like Eugene's, it looked like the grey of Eugene's car there that just went through. Switch to myself. Morphe's closed right up on me now. This Morphe's having a go. Played far better of it. And the slide of the tail on his car. Looks like he gathered it up. It was Eugene who had a slide, because Eugene's dropped down to P10. I do recall he ended up behind me and then closed in. We'll have quite a battle later on. So a bit of a disappointment for Eugene. He was well up the front of the field. Well, obviously he's quick, so he's going to move through the field now, I would expect. So he's got a 2 second gap to Morphy to close up. And how's Morphy doing on chasing me? He's within half a second. He's got to find an area where he can either outbrake me or... Oh, don't know what happened there with Morphy. Sudden jerk to the left of the wheel. The gap's open right up. It's now 1.7 seconds, I think that was, for a moment. You can see the gap from inside Morphy's cockpit. Just see on his rear view camera Sorg closing in behind him. So the gap's still pretty tight. But what Sorg going to do is, Sorg's pretty fast, he's closing in pretty quick as well. Look from Sorg's point of view, probably waiting for a gap to open up to try and make an attack. See Morphy have a slight wriggle in his car then, and Sorg's up the inside. Looks like Morphy's dropped back just one place. Sorg pushes through and then starts to aim towards me. I would have been concerned by this because I know Sorg is quite quick, but I would have also noted he's ended up behind me, so ideally I can encourage him to have a similar incident to his previous one and keep behind me. But with 13 laps in, Barr is still leading, now got 1.4 second lead over Winspur. And McCarthy's a further 6 seconds behind, so it's really between Barr and Winspur, I think, at this moment in time. And there's a big gap from McCarthy to Nins. And then Crawford appears to be pretty close behind. So we have a look from Crawford's point of view. Yeah, you can see Nins is just in front there, just going into Druids. Nins makes a mistake. We join just as Nins makes a mistake and Crawford goes through. How far back will that put Nins? Let's embarrass Nins by watching his recovery. He's back behind Martin. That'll put him in P6, I think. This is all part of the punishment, Nins, for claiming you don't know what you're doing and you can't get around these tracks and you've never practiced. Turning up to beat me every week. A little slip. Looks like Nins may have caught too much curb on the inside of Druids. If you catch too much of that curb on Druids, it will pull your car right round and leave you pointing towards the trees and a bit stuck. So another tight battle between Crawford, Martin and Nins. Where has Sorg gone? Sorg's down back in P12 now. So whilst we're watching Nins getting at one with nature on Druids, Sorg must have had that incident I said he might have and dropped further behind. Oh, and that was Dommy, I think, was it? Or was it Eugene? No, I think that was Dommy 64 having a big off behind Sorg there. So another driver struggling on the treacherous Branbds Hatch. So now, of all things, the next driver in front of me is my own teammate. However, it's 8.5 seconds away, so that's quite a big gap to close up. So far, I've kept it pretty clean without too many incidents. So on screen now we've got myself, Morphy, and just Eugene just at the back. Remember, Eugene was up to P4, I believe, at one point. Kinder and then Sorg. Everybody's a quick driver, except for me. All I do is keep out of trouble, in case you haven't noticed. Well, again, that's all part of it. Morphy's still behind me, still trying to get through, but not closing up that gap enough to make an attack. Oh, Morphy has a big slide there, and Eugene goes through, and so does Kinder. Morphy has another little bit of a... Once you have a slide on one corner, it tends to overheat the tyres a little bit, and you tend to carry that slide through to the next corner, right? You end up with a bit of a night there, and one driver will go through, then maybe you'll lose to two. So now we have Eugene. He'll be closing in on me. And I'm pretty sure by this point my tyres were getting pretty tired. And I was starting to struggle a little bit on some of the corners. Kinder closing tight on Eugene. Trying to put some pressure. And up front on the race, has now pulled out over a 2-second lead on Winspur. So nice, easy drive, I'd say. He's got to obviously got to keep the speed up, keep the pressure on, but he's not being pressurised from behind by Winspur. It's quite a big gap, over 2 seconds. And then there's an enormous gap of 10 seconds back to McCarthy. So definitely Barr and Winspur are a different level in this race. And it's a further 5 seconds back for Crawford. And then just behind Crawford, Nins is just 1.5 seconds away. But that's quite a big gap to close up, really, especially if you're doing about equal lap times. Little gap back from Nins to Martin. And then it's myself. So as I was just behind Nins just a moment ago, it means Martin must have dropped back a space, or Nins has managed to execute an overtake move, which he'll thank me for missing. You can see the spread of cars there just behind me as we drop down Paddock Hill into Druids. So the race getting a little bit spread out now. One or two little gaps appearing. I think the closest gap now is for Morphy. Oh, Sorg goes past Morphy again just as we cut to it. These are the closest gaps in the race. Morphy's got Wilson closing in on him. Wilson being quick, so Morphy's in trouble. He needs to keep his foot down. Try and latch onto the back of Sorg and try and get Sorg to drag him around a little bit, get some speed and some time. So Eugene's still got Kinder very close behind as they both start to move up towards me. Gap is 1.3 seconds to me, and there's a big empty space in front of me all the way up to Martin. With Eugene now as he goes down the main straight into Paddock Hill Bend down towards Druids. Kinder's a little nosy, but too far back to make an attack there. Eugene looks to get a good exit there. Makes a little gap, and then sees a little wiggle on his car when he's under braking, and that allows Kinder to close back up again, so it's all very tight. Something's happened up front. Oh, we are actually approaching pit stop time now, so I think Bar has pitted. Yeah, drivers are starting to pit. So we go to Bar, yeah, there he's in the pits, having his mandatory pit stop to change tyres. He's going to emerge a lot further down the field. Looks like he'll emerge in P11. Looks like it's a fair gap to Legrand, but it's hard to tell. But the majority of drivers will be pitting very soon. Everything will shake itself out again. So at the moment, Crawford's up to second. Nin's just behind him then. You just got a little glimpse of Nin's car. Nin's within 1 second now of Crawford. Trying to close up. View from Nin's to give you an idea of how close it is. Right behind him, trying to put pressure on perhaps just before the pit stops and before they go in. See if he can get through and capitalise. So we're about 30 minutes into a race now, having completed 19 laps. Nin's closest right up on Crawford. There's really no way through on this bit of section of a track. It's very fast right-hander coming up, no space, and then pretty quick left-hander as well, where there's no opportunity to get through. Next real overtaking opportunity is the end of the pit straight. Sometimes at the end of this stretch, you're going into right-hander, but Crawford's got it covered on the inside. Will that compromise his pit stop? Oh, he's going into the pits. So Linz was aware of that, I think. Ducked around the outside. Takes the next lap rather than get stuck behind Crawford going into the pit lane. Better to do an extra lap rather than face congestion in the pit stops, which is something that happened to me. Meanwhile, Nins has now got Martin right behind him. Martin having a little nosy there on the inside of Druids. Now these pit stops temporarily pushed me up to P5. I'm still being pursued by Sorg and Kinder. Morphy in close attendance, just 0.9 of a second behind Sorg. Wilson's 3 seconds back now, and Crawford, I assume, is in the pits now, isn't he? Yeah, he pulled to the pits, didn't he, Crawford? So he's dropping P12 while he completes his pit stop. Looks like a half decent gap really between me and Sorg. I'm only 2 seconds behind Eugene. So this really turns into my target now to try and chase Eugene down. See if I can see him from my cockpit. There he is, just in front. Just see in my rear view camera, down to the bottom right, you just see a little glimpse of Sorg being pursued by Kinder. But I've still not pitted. My tyres are really starting to get tired out now. A little bit of a struggle to get braked at time. See my best lap so far is a 27.2 and I just did a 27.5, so my lap times are still pretty decent compared to the start of the race, but the fuel load now is a lot lower than what it was when I first started, making the car a lot lighter. So with fresh tyres I should be able to really improve on these lap times. See Eugene pulling away really from me there. Real battle now, I think, between Sorg and Kinder. Less than a second between these two. See them both on screen. Kinder's a little bit too much of a gap for Kinder to close there and make an attack. Could be he's waiting for the pit stops now. Oh, Crawford got a drive-through penalty. That's most likely for speeding in the pit lane. Can happen if you change into second gear coming out the pits. The speed limit is immediately disabled. It's far too easy to go straight above 50 kilometers an hour, I think is the pit lane limit. So that's really cost Crawford dear if he's got a drive-through. I think he's just served it because it's disappeared from against his name. So that's really hurt his position. Just in front of Crawford is Domi. For 6 seconds to... No, can't tell a gap. It looks pretty close to Domi. And it's Morphy up the road. Then Nins. Nins must have also finished his pit stop, just overtaking a back marker there. So just in front of Nins. Oh no, good 10 seconds away from Nins is McCarthy. So all the pit stops need to shake themselves out now. And here I'm having my pit stop. Oh yes, you can see the pit crew on my pit stop. Changing the tyres. It's a fixed 30-second pit stop time window, regardless of what you do, refueling, wherever. So rejoin the track, and just as I rejoin, it's a fight for position. Morphy's a fight for position, so I rejoin the track and it's straight into it. Hold a nice tight line on Druids, give Morphy space on the outside. Yep, definitely did squeeze in there. I was worried about this in the race. And then we go down to the next corner. Little tap. And then Morphy really backs off for some reason. And then we all accelerate away. But we're all in a fight here. Both myself, Morphy and Domi, who's just in front now. And this was it. I was like full attack. I really wanted to get past Domi and get my position back. Started to push as hard as I could. Don't know how long Morphy's been out on those tyres and whether that perhaps cost him. I think he was in the pits just a short while ago, so it should be fresh rubber. But I was really starting to push hard now. I think it led to 1 or 2 little slips, little few wheels on the grass. But I did manage to push, create a gap on Morphy pretty fast and close in very quickly on Domi. It's only 0.8 of a second at the moment. See Domi just in front. The other close battle that's going on at the moment is Matt against Nins. Don't worry about Fourier, he's further down the field. I think he's being lapped, so he's not a factor in this fight between Nins. And Martin. Sorg, up and down the field all day, is now up to P3. In fact, he's up to P1, his pit stops. Pretty close run there with Kravenchuk. But looking at these positions, Kravchenok, I think he's being lapped because the computer's saying Kravchenok's in P12 and Sorg's in P1. So ideally, shouldn't be getting in the way like that on Druids. And it needs to be pulling over. Yeah, there's blue flags being waved. Imagine Sorg's feeling the pressure. He's got a clear track in front of him as he's in P1, but he's got to make up his time before he has to pit. So he really needs a clear empty track in front of him so he can push as hard as he can. So not ideal that Kravchenok was right in front of him there as he went into Druids. Obviously Kravchenok's got some speed because there's a little gap now. Oh, Kinder flying around the outside of Sorg there. That was a great move. Sorg put a couple of wheels onto the grass. Kinder came from behind. Don't lap himself. Sorg must be due a pit stop. Oh, Kinder had a big moment. Sorg's back through. Don't catch the sound. you drift off to the left there and catch the sand, it's bad news. Oh, somebody right off there to the right, I wasn't looking. Moving off myself. I'm still trying to close in on Dommy. Got back markers all around us. I fairly fly past this guy in the Porsche. Really had my foot down at this point. Desperately trying to catch Dommy and try and get past him. He's a good driver, he's difficult to get past. But I really wanted to try and get this place back. I'm not even sure if I succeeded in the end. I'm not sure if Dommy pulls away, but we'll find out soon. Up to 25 laps now. I think most of the pit stops are complete. Sorg is still going out there up front. And Bar's down in 19th, so I'm not sure what's going on with Bar. Still pushing on, trying to catch up with Dommy, trying to make an opening, but he's too clean. All his laps are usually without error or such small errors that you can't capitalise. My big problem is that I just keep pushing like this for too long. I'll have some sort of incident. So far I'm getting good laps and good times. I always do well around this sequence of corners, really close up now on Dommy. But then I'm not quite as quick down the main pit straight. This corner in particular is always a bit of a struggle. And T1 Paddock bend I always found very tricky. Did a bit of wiggling around here, see if I could put Dommy off. It didn't work, I put myself off. No way through on Druids really. The only way through on Druids is to get a really good speed coming down the hill and then get up the inside. But these cars I think are a bit too evenly matched for that to work. Dommy takes a slightly wide line there, try and close up. It's not enough. The best we can do is get really close to each other all the way down this next straight. But I never even seem to get a decent toe to try and make an attack. It's 3 more seconds to Eugene, so I think cars up the road will be back markers that we're coming up to lap, just to make the battle between Dommy and myself even more challenging. You can see Morphy's coming right up behind us. Still nearly over 1.8 seconds though back to Morphy, so he's got to press a little bit harder, try and catch up with us, and then see if he can exploit an opportunity if either myself or Dommy made a mistake. And right in front of us is Sorg, so he must have completed his pit stop and come out. So now we've got more back markers. I think this Porsche really got in the way here in the corner. So of course myself, Sorg and Dommy all to close up on each other. These are all back markers we're going through, so this was an exciting time. Thanks to Daly there, got right out of the way, a bit too much out of the way, I think he was on the grass, poor guy. I think this was one of the most intense parts of the race. Morphy's just behind us, probably trying not to close his eyes, waiting for us all to have a massive accident. But Eugene is the next car really for us free, and he's 3 seconds away. So anybody you see just in front of Sorg is generally going to be a back marker that we're about to come up and lap. Zemlan there having a big moment. I think that worried me. Kept over to the left to make sure he didn't bounce back on the track. That put me in a slightly bad line for the corner, but it was okay. I kept the speed up, still kept close with Domi. Domi went a little bit slow, I think, on this corner. Gave me a little opportunity. I think this is where it goes a bit wrong for me. Come on the outside. I know I can't get around the corner ahead of him. I just wanted to see if I can put him off. Instead, I end up on the marbles. And then have to come back on the track. Now my tyres are dirty. Coming down to Branbds Hatch. To Druids. Domi makes a mistake. Domi goes wide. I managed to keep the usual tight line. You see Sorgs pulled a little bit away, and the really tight race we were having opens up a little bit. Don't know what happened to Murphy. He's now 6 seconds behind, so something happened to Murphy behind us to create a bit of a gap. So I believe a little sigh of relief. Domi, I think, has just pulled away a little bit. That little mistake going into Paddock Hill Bend really set me back a little bit. So now I have to push hard. 28 laps in. Got about another 12 laps to go, I think, on this race. That's all the time I've got to try and close in and push on Domi and make that space up. Behind me I can see is Crawford, but he's 8 seconds back. So Murphy, I don't know what happened to Murphy. Don't know if he pitted. He left it really late to pit perhaps, but he was right behind us, and then he was 6 seconds, and now he's behind Crawford. So really dropped back. Kinder's gone a long way down as well. So leading the race is Winspur, followed by McCarthy. Barr's disappeared. Barr's down in P18. So I only assume some sort of incident has taken Barr really out of contention. It's 8 second gap between Winspur and McCarthy. So unless something dramatic goes wrong or he has a spin, all Winspur has to do is just keep it on the island, as I say, keep going round. Martin's ahead of Nins. There's now a 2.8 second gap between Martin and Nins, so that's looking solid. Martin doesn't usually make mistakes, so it'll be very difficult for Nins to close that up. And what was a tight race between myself, Sorg and Domi has now opened up a little bit. Sorg's moved away a little bit. Domi's opened up a little gap on me. Sorg is starting to close in on Eugene now. He's only a second away. Just see Eugene just in front. Really gets close to the rear of Eugene there. Just coming up towards the final bend before the main straight. Final corner. Yep, you can see, have them posts survived this long? Thought they'd be gone within 1 lap. Sorg's trying on the outside. Not something that's really going to work on Paddock Hill Bend. Sorg's going right around the outside, pushing for Druids. It's tight. I'd say, yeah, he's lost speed on the corner. He's hustling, as they say, trying to get round. Now he's with a big dive up the inside. Don't know what happened to Eugene there. Eugene really seemed to back off. Sorg's away. And Domi's come through as well, so I don't know if Eugene has got some sort of problem. He's suddenly dropping right down the field. He's lost two places in the space of like 2 corners. Now he's pushing hard to get back. It looks like he's got it as well for the next corner. So I don't know what happened to Eugene there. He suddenly fell back and then pushed on hard. Can't miss a gear in these cars. They're all paddle shift and semi-automatic gearboxes. I'm not aware you can miss a gear anyway. So Sorg's through and away. It's already a 1.5 second gap. Very quickly opened up on Eugene. Domi's pushing hard. You can just see me in the background as well, having closed back up, having had my little mishap at the end of the pit straight. So I'm now just 1.1 second behind Domi, trying to push and get this place back. He's been pushing all the way from the pit stop, trying to get Domi under pressure. And Eugene makes a huge mistake. Goes straight on at Druids. So Domi's through, and then I'm right behind him. looking to the left and looking to the right, trying to see there's a way through. But it's not happening. Not yet, anyway. But I'm not far away. Just 0.7 of a second. That's usually about enough space to ensure you've got enough braking, enough room to brake. So we're coming up to the section of the track that I'm usually fastest on. Close very quickly up to Eugene, but the trouble is there's no passing on this section. Some wheels on the grass. I think I get that close to Eugene and make a huge mistake. Straight off into the gravel trap, having to recover. Worried how far back Eugene Crawford is behind me. I'm already back on track though. And waiting for the computer to update with the gap. But I wasn't too upset. It was like, oh no, blast. No swearing was involved. Picked this up, and what I figured was I closed in on Eugene really quick. I've got more laps to do. I've got time. I can do it again. I can definitely close in on Eugene. I think I can get this place. I can get P7. So Eugene does appear to be struggling in 1-2 maybe his tyres are shot, or his brakes are a bit boiling, or maybe he's got his tyre pressures wrong, or his brake temps wrong, and he's struggling with grip at this late stage of the race. Something I struggled with a lot when I started Assetto Corsa Competizione was the performance of the car in the last 10 minutes of the race was always a nightmare. And now I try and run with brakes and tyres a lot cooler, and it seems to work. The car seems to retain its freshness all the way to the end of the race and keep the temperatures down. You might lose a little edge in performance, but it's worth losing that little edge. You can take the car all the way to the finish and keep pushing. So the gap now between Eugene and myself is just about 3 seconds. And that's where I thought, and he's off again. Definitely some sort of grip problem, I think, for Eugene, and I'm through. And I get overexcited now. My focus immediately turned to Domi, and how quickly I can try and close the gap to Domi, keep pushing. And that, I think, was a mistake. I'm coming in the Paddock Hill bend, slip wide, onto the sand, just like I said you shouldn't do. Eugene straight back through, straight back to where I was, back to square one. Need to find a way past Eugene. But I was still confident at this point. My mistake was just my mistake. I'm looking at what's happening to Eugene. I think he's got grip problems. He's been wide and not able to stop for a couple of corners. So if I can keep the pressure on, and he's going to be trying to carry too much speed into a corner, the same thing might happen and I'll be able to get through again. So it's probably not too long left to go now. I've only got fuel on for 9 more laps, and I carried enough fuel, I think, for 2 reserve laps. So we've got probably about 7 laps to go to try and catch Eugene, get through. Sorg still up the road. Nins is now behind Martin. It's less than a second gap. Winspur is a long way down the road. It's 13-second gap over McCarthy. And the field is really spread out all the way down. There's a good few second gaps between all drivers. This closest battle closed up again on Eugene. Coming into one of the bits, and he's gone really wide. He's lost the rear end. I lost in traction and speed. I go around the outside. Give space on the inside. I don't close the door. Don't want to be hit as we go through the corner, so I'll leave plenty of space. But now I've got the inside of the main straight, and I've got the inside of the next corner. So it's last of the late breakers, I think, going into the next corner. And the advantage is mine because I've got the inside line. And I got the inside line again for the next corner, which can carry a lot more speed through than Eugene. I was always confident on that corner anyway. So I think that's it now. I'm through. But how much pressure is Eugene going to keep on me? Because he's made mistakes, but he's seen me make mistakes as well. And he'll be thinking, if I can keep pushing, keep on him, maybe he'll make another mistake and I'll be able to get him. So at first, the mistake I made here was I started to fight Eugene for the space, for the place, and really look at what he was doing and reacting to what he was doing and trying to defend my corners. Oh, Eugene's team is shed racing. I think I know somebody who lives in the shed. I see Mr. Broadbent in our leagues though. I'm off on the grass, but luckily I managed to keep it going in a straight line. Pretty defensive line from me, just take the middle of the track. I don't close the door overly much, in case Eugene is there. I don't want to end up in a bit of a collision. But no, I'll just occupy the middle of the track, make sure it can't go around on either side. Close up, but not enough of an overspeed to get past me. All you can do is close up. Again, a slight defensive line. I'm not as far over to the left as I could be. Always get decent speed through here. Move away slightly. Again, get a good drive through that corner. Well, the next series of corners worries me because it's a very open and wide track. It's very hard to defend, so I get too defensively minded in my view. Try and stick the car again in the middle of the track, try and make it as difficult as possible to drive around me. If you can, force the other driver around the outside, where there's no way they'll do an overtake on the outside. Usually does a little look at the inside, where I make sure I cover the whole line off. I slightly outbrake myself, and this is where I start to think I'm not driving to get the maximum speed, I'm driving too defensively. Shortly after this, I changed my approach, and instead I start to drive so I can get around the track quickly, and very quickly I open a gap on Eugene. And something happens, because all of a sudden there was a huge gap between me and Eugene. I was pushing, but again I'm putting the car in a good defensive position, but it does compromise my entry to the next corner. But the nature of these corners is there's no way through really. Good exit from this corner for me. Push up the hill quite quick. Just touched the grass, which is always worrying. Back round to complete another lap. I think there's still a good 10 minutes left to go at this moment in time. So still enough time to have a complete disaster. Further up the field, Winspur must have happened the disaster. He was in front by miles, and now he's behind Nin, so don't know what happened to Winspur. You can see his bonnet's rattling, so it looks like he might have front-ended into something if he's losing his bonnet up. McCarthy must be shocked to have suddenly been handed a victory. It looked like he was on for a certain second place. So it's never too late for Martins, still a 7-second gap. Meanwhile, Eugene still behind me, still trying to find a way through, still trying to create some pressure. But there's a little bit of a gap now, and the more there's a little bit of a gap, the more I can relax and take the proper racing line and carry as much speed as possible. I get a really good exit here, go up the hill, carry lots of speed through the corner onto the next straight. Just see me just pulling away a little bit on each corner, just a little tiny amount. And now the gap is 0.8 seconds, so it looks more. I know when I'm in this position, my head starts to drop now. You can see the car moving away and moving away. I don't know what happens to Eugene. You just hear his engine just drop away for Eugene, and all of a sudden the gap is 2 seconds. It's like his car's really slowed down. It's bizarre. And boom, and gone. It's now 5 second gap. No, 2 seconds, it's saying. I think the next sector gap will increase dramatically. So I don't know if Eugene had some sort of problem with fuel. According to the computer, it's saying 20 litres, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. Eugene going really, really slowly. Crawford comes through. It sounds like the car's barely got any power, so I'm gone at this point. Another driver, that's Heath, who's unlapping himself. So Eugene had big problems. I don't know whether he underfueled his car, but that's part of the race. Obviously, that would give Eugene a big advantage earlier on in the race if he was underfueled. So Winspur's had a mare while we were watching my excitement. There's Eugene off to one side. 7 seconds or so between Crawford and myself, so it's unlikely that gap's going to get closed before the end of the race. I think we're closing into the final few laps now. So McCarthy's still got a strong lead after Winspur had a bit of a mare at some point. Martin is just under 5 seconds. Oh, and Dommy's had a big moment, just had a spin on his own. Don't know what happened. Must have got his rear tyres onto the curb and onto the marbles. And there I go. That's for position. That gives me P6. While Dommy's extracted himself from the barrier. I don't know if it happens to Dommy like it happens to me. Whenever I have a spin like that, I seem to get trapped underneath the barrier, and it takes me minutes to extract myself. And there is much wailing and gnashing of teeth as you try and figure out how you ended up in that position, and why you can't get the car out fast enough. You always seem to be in a position as well where you have to reverse onto the racing line, which you're very reluctant to do, because obviously it's very dangerous. You can't see what's coming. So you really end up hesitating for quite a while before you make the move to get your car back onto the track. So Dommy's now stuck 3 seconds behind me, and I can't believe I've got P6. I thought that was it for me. Definitely thought I was settled in for P7, and that's all I was going to get. Sorg is still up the road as well. Sorg's in P4 with Winspur behind him now. Bar's down in P14. I will have to have a look after this race to see what happened to Bar. He's leading for so long quite comfortably and then disappeared right down the back of the field. So 2 second gap between Sorg and Winspur. And it's not, the computer's not figured out the gap between myself and Winspur yet. Yeah, 3 second gap. So Nins is the one with the closest race. He's just a fraction of a second. So he should be. There's Eugene there, looked like he was going into the pits for some reason. Them land. It's indicating just 0.16. Oh, cars all over the place. And that put Nins off a little bit. There's Martin right in front. That's the end of a race. That's the end of a race. We're all done. P6 for me. What a result that was. That was without there were cars everywhere. It was the end of a race. Something you can't tell on the replay. There we go. Eugene, I'm guessing, must have been out of fuel where he stopped there at the side of the track. Real disaster for him at the end of a race. He's dropped down to P15, I think. So there you go. An unusual way of presenting. I'm not sure if I'm cut out to be a commentator. Hope you enjoyed the race. There's now a 1 week break before the next event at Spa. However, they've decided to include, as I said at the start of the broadcast, a random race with a random car and a random track. We'll be advised 1 hour before the race about which car we've been allocated, on which track you've been allocated. So the broadcast will start as soon as practice begins, I think, assuming I can get all my hardware to work this time. So we'll go through the allocation of the car and the track, and then we'll go through the practice and quickly try to set up something that will work on the track and the conditions we're going to face. And then we'll take forward into quali and the 60-minute race itself. Quite a long broadcast next time. Hope to see you then. Hope you enjoyed the show. See you next time. Goodbye.